Hi, Max. Hi, Sophia. Hi, Tom. Thank you for joining us today. Would you like to start and tell us about your mom's diagnosis?
Hi, thank you so much for having us. My name's Sophia. This is my brother Max and Tommy. We're really grateful for you guys. And so in 2019, our mom was diagnosed with MDS. It was a really, really tough diagnosis. We're a very close-knit family, and the health of we always had this one saying, like, if you have your health, you're going to be okay. So it was the first time we really kind of got a change up in our life, and a really scary one. I think we really came together, which is what I hope other families and other people going through a similar situation can do. The support system that we had for each other really made it possible to get through everything and to get through it even now, as we're still working through her diagnosis.
Yeah, and I want to echo what Sophia said about the shock. Our family was very smooth sailing for all of our life, and all of a sudden it was like a meteor just landed in our house. Max and I were in China at the time, got a call from our dad that wasn't really specific on what was happening. It was just really difficult. So yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, something I can add, like, especially to start, the peaks and the valleys emotionally are very, very intense. Like, one moment you think we're in the clear, the next moment you get really devastating news. But in hindsight, it's interesting to look back on how we handled those situations. Like, for me, I really let those peaks and valleys get to me. Like, when things were going great, I was probably overly optimistic. When things were going not so great, I was probably overly pessimistic. So trying to stay cool-headed is important, and also just maintaining hope, because it's also quite easy to look at all these, percentages and things that can be difficult to look at. But trying to stay, understand that we have, there's a long journey ahead of you, but trying to just navigate it even-minded is important.
That's a great point. The percentages, sorry, just to talk about the percentages, we must have gone through 10 plus different rounds of percentage calculations. Like, okay, first there's a 14% chance of this, then a 50%, then a 20. If you actually did the math, it's statistically impossible that she ended up and she's still here. So for anyone watching this that is going through this, you should look at the numbers, but man, right, Mac, Sophia, we think how many times we calculated out these numbers. It's mind blowing. In the end, luckily it happened to work, but yeah.
Were there things that you all did that you think were most helpful to your mom? What kinds of things did you do to help her while she was going through diagnosis and then treatment?
Snuggles. Honestly, like hugs, and just like feeling, her alive, like, really was something that I found super important. I remember she was getting her bone marrow transplant, and just being able to lay in the bed next to her and like just hug her and hold her. Like, just do that to your loved ones if you're going through this, like, being able to just physically hold and be there with them, not just be there for them, was really important.
I have a picture of that moment.
Yeah. I remember those times very vividly. Something I realize is, like, what your loved one is going through is way harder than what you have to go through. They're taking 99.99% of the pain, even though it feel like it's devastating to see it and to feel it. But what I always went back to is, I'm out easy. This is nothing for me. You know, they're going through major physical and mental distress beyond what we're going through. So recognizing that and being grateful in a weird way, in a certain way, you're grateful that most of the family is healthy. And then, like Sophia is saying, just being there, physically present as much as possible, because nothing I could do could take away from her physical pain. And she was in a lot of physical pain. So that's something that went through my head.
Yeah, and then I guess this is more on a practical note, but the neighbor lists where you can compile food was, I can't even, so helpful. It was unbelievable. It just beyond. That was a big one. And then for me personally, I really like technology stuff, and I set up, air purifiers when, in the beginning to purify stuff. We got her eyelid things, so it would put heat on her eyes, which really helped. And little technology stuff. We just asked her, what's going on, what's wrong, and surprisingly, there's a lot of things out there. The eye thing costs like maybe $20 or something. Little things make a huge difference. So keep a lookout for technology, I would say.
Did you see yourselves as caregivers?
That's funny. We were talking about it earlier. When we were making this video, we thought you meant nurses and the doctors. We didn't really think about us. So we didn't actually think about that until now.
What tips do you have for other families who are just getting diagnosed or maybe are struggling with ways to help their loved ones? What tips do you have, and what are some of the things that you wish you had known when your mom's journey started?
I think the relationship with time and understanding that, at first we thought it was going to be a 3-month thing. We were unfortunately making plans as if there was a time limit of 3 to 6 months. Fortunately, thank God, we're 2 years in or so, and we're still navigating. So just being aware that it's a fluid situation, and you're going to get, and like we heard this from doctors before, they're like, you're going to get great news, and then literally a week later, it's going to be worse than it was a week before. So understanding that it's probably going to feel a lot longer than it's either going to feel, or it's going to actually be longer than you might have anticipated, and recognizing that and planning just with that in mind, that time could be quite different than what you were originally expecting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Time is, I can't say it better.
And just really making and Sophia kind of alluded to this, but making the most of the time that you do have. So my mom loved puzzles. I hate puzzles. I would sit there and get like one piece every hour. She'd be doing like 30 at a time, but just spending that quality time as much as possible. We were taking a lot of videos and audio, like just kind of doing interviews, and we haven't had to look back on them yet. But in those moments, I remember feeling really grateful that, wow, we're capturing this moment as she's sharing something about her childhood or something. She shared the great things and the bad things, and that was a good way to process the situation.
And
just a couple things I just thought of, kind of random. First is actually believing that you never know what's going to happen. I talked to some people and I said, look, the chances are really low survival. It's probably not going to end well. And they said, you never know. And I'm like, yeah, usually in other people's cases, but I know for our situation, it's just, we know it's just, there's no chance, but you really never know. So I would really encourage you to just believe that you really never know. And the other thing is to do your own research and to not be afraid to speak up when you're talking to doctors and people at the hospital.
Yeah.
It was just very vague. Everything was vague. There was, for our case, no direction, not much macro look at what was going on. We had to really stop them and say, okay, where are we in the process? What's the next obstacle? What's after that? Really slowing them down because they're overloaded is the truth. They're overloaded with patients. Don't be afraid to just stop them and speak up.
Yeah, question everything. And if the person who is diagnosed is, complaining about a certain thing, and like really ask doctors, ask the nurses about it. Don't let it go until they've addressed it. We see the most of the pain, and doctors see them for maybe it's an hour. So really speak up.
One last thing, if you have a message for your mom, what would you guys like to tell her?
We love you so much.
Yeah.
The best mom in the entire world.
Thank you guys so much for taking the time today and sharing your family's story. So much appreciated. And we wish you guys and your mom all the very best.
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. This is great.